Well done with your Python programming so far. This week we're going to look at something called for loops. So this is where we iterate round. Now I know we haven't used the word iterate yet, but I'll explain what that means in just one moment. So Python programming lesson 5, for loops. Before we get on with our Python, we have our knowledge recall questions. If you'd like to, in a moment, pause the video and answer these 4 questions and put those into your e-portfolio. There's a little spelling mistake there. What is selection? Give an example. And we looked at casting last week, what that is. Thinking back to earlier units on HTML, what is a rollover image? And also, what do these HTML tags do? Or understand that. So if you want to pause the video and answer those questions, that'll be brilliant. Okay, moving on from our knowledge recall questions. I've already mentioned the word iterate, and we're going to look at that again. So I'm going to read the first statement. To iterate means to do the same thing over and over again. For example, repeat the same piece of code. I'm going to look at the next one. To iterate means to do the same thing over and over again. For example, repeat the same piece of code. And now the yellow one. To iterate means to do the same thing over and over again. For example, repeat the same piece of code. So hopefully you've realised that I've repeated the same sentence over and over again, and that is what iterating actually means. To iterate something means to go over it again and again. Now in Python program we use loops when we want to iterate, when we want something to repeat and go over again. And they're controlled by Boolean variables, whether it's true or false. So if it's fine to carry on, if it is true, then it carries on looping round, and as soon as it's not fine, as soon as it's false, it will stop. So that is how we're going to create our iteration in a for loop in Python. Whenever you use a for loop, you must end the for loop with a colon and indent your next instruction, and we'll see that when we program in a moment. So I've got a few examples here. For I in range, so this is iterating. For I in range 10, that means repeat it 10 times. For I in range 1 to 10, now Python uses something called inclusive exclusive, and that means include 1 but exclude 10. So go from 1 to and stop before 10, so 1 to 9 in this example here. And here for I in range 2 to 10 in increments of 2, so it means include the first number of 2, exclude the last number of 10 in jumps of 2. So this one will be 2, 4, 6, 8. Because we exclude the 10, we don't actually print that, so the answer for this one will be 2, 4, 6, 8. And that's what this explains here, the 3 explanations. So if you need a little time to go over that and look at it again, pause the video and read those. Otherwise, you can carry on and move forward with the video. So our first bit of Python code is here. And I'm going to do this with you in REPL. So you'll be able to pause the video and type these 2 examples. And I'm going to go through it with you so you can see what happens to make sure that we get our Python syntax, the language of Python, absolutely right. So I'm just going to bring REPL in here, and I'm looking for a print. Remember, my print command is lowercase p, print, and what I've got here, hopefully you can remember this, the \n means a new line. So I'm just doing example 1, and that's in string because it's in the speech marks. And then I'm looking for my iteration. So for I, we often use I for iteration, but we can use anything. For I in range. And here, I've just put 10 as a number. For I in range 10. Now I said earlier that we've got to, at the end of our I in range, we've got to have the colon. And when I press return now on the keyboard, I can see that my computer has automatically indented for me. That's what we're looking for. So now I just want a print command of hello world. And when I run this, what I should find is it'll iterate through the program. It'll go for I in range, so it starts at 0. So the score is 0, it'll print hello world because it hasn't got to 10. It'll print hello world. Then it will iterate through again. It'll loop round again. This time it will add 1 to the I, so it becomes 1 out of 10. Therefore, 1 out. It hasn't got to 10 yet, so it'll print hello world again, and it'll keep going, and each time adding 1 onto the total until it gets to 10. When it gets to 10, it will not print it, so it'll become false. It will not print hello world. So when I now click run, I can see my example 1. Remember, new line here, example 1, and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It hasn't printed with the 10th one. So that's exactly what we expected, and that's what I'd expect to see in your ePortfolio. I'm just going to put another example in now. So I've pressed return a couple of times. I'm still indented, so I just need to backspace back to there. I'm going to print again. I'm going to have a \n for a new line, and I'm now just going to have example 2. So in this example, I'm going to do something similar. I've got for I in range, but this time I'm using the range of 1 to 11. And remember, at the end I need the colon. And I'm just going to have print. Again, I'm just going to put in hello world. Hello world. So this time, remember that it's inclusive, exclusive. So the 1 is included, 11 is excluded, so we don't use the 11. So we're looping round 1 to 10 in effect before 11. So now when I run it, it will still run my first example, because the code is still here. I can run that, ignoring the first bit of code, and now we've got example 2, hello world, so it's printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's exactly what I want. If I wanted to show that just as my first bit, my example 2, I can delete this, run it, and now it's just got example 2 in there. So they're the first couple of examples of code that I want you to think about, and I want you to have a go at these and understand what's going on with the for I in range and put that in your ePortfolio. I'm now going to put in example 3, and what I'm doing this time for I in range, and I'm looking at just range of 10, what I'm now going to do, instead of printing words, I'm going to print just an I. I'm going to print the iteration, so each one of these. So it's not in speech marks because it's not a word I want to print, it's just the I. And when I run this, what I get on my example 3, as I said before, it starts off at 0 and goes up to 10, but it doesn't include 10, so therefore it should stop at 9. And that's what we have in our example here, 0 to 9 printed. So it's printed each number. So it starts off at 0, prints 0. Then it loops round again, and now the number has gone up by 1. And it prints that number, so it prints 1, and it loops around again, so it's now gone up to 2, prints 2, up to 3, prints 3, and so on. So that is for I in range 10. Let's have another look at another example. This time we're going to print, I'm going to call this one example 4, \n, example 4, and what I'm now looking at is a for I in range, and this time I'm going to go from 1 to 10, and remember the colon at the end, and I'm going to print I. I'm going to take out the previous example, example 3, so I'm just left with my 4th example. When I run that, I start at 1, so inclusive of 1, exclude 10, so it should be 1 all the way up to 9, and that's what I've got when I run my code. So you can explain that in your ePortfolio, what the 1 to 10 actually means. And then my 5th example. So I've now got a 5th example. I'm changing this again for I in range. This time I'm going to range from 2 to 10, but I'm going to include another comma this time and put a 2 in. So what this is going to do when I run this, it will include 2, it will exclude 10, but it will go up in 2s. So it'll go 2, 4, 6, 8, and then it will not print the 10, hopefully, when I run it. And we have our 2, 4, 6, 8. So we've looped round, we've iterated round. First time round we print 2, and then we go again. We're going up in 2s this time, so then we print 4, then 6, then 8, and the 10 is exclusive. We don't print the number at the end. So that is what we're printing on that one. Now, there's a couple examples in the PowerPoint, and I'm just going to move forward with the PowerPoint. These are the ones I've shown you in the video, so you can work your way through this one. You can work your way through these examples. This is the one we've just done that goes up in 2s. So we have a starting number, the ending number where it will stop that we exclude, and the number that we're going up in. This is what we did right at the start when we started printing with new lines. We had 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato, more. So a little nursery rhyme there. Now what we're looking to do, instead of just printing each line, we're going to do it as a for I in range, print then a line, which will be the number 4, then we'll do a for I in range of 5 to 7, and then print more. Now, I think some of you will be able to code this with a for I in range, or 2 for I in ranges in this format, then a print, then a for I in range, and print, without seeing the example. So I'm going to do the example very quickly, but if you'd like to have a go without seeing the example, you need to pause the video now and see how you get on. So this is what I want my output to look like. I'm going to just call this example 6. And I'm going to have for I in range, and I need inclusive of 1, exclusive of 4. Inclusive of 1, exclusive of 4. And I'm going to have print I, so that's going to be the number, comma, potato. Now, I haven't got the 4, 5, 6, 7 and the more yet, but I'm just going to test this out just to check it's working as I expect it, so you can run half a program. So I've got 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato. What I now have, and I've got the clue in the example here, is just a normal print command. Remember, I'm still tabbed in, so I just need to return backspace. So now I've got a print and just the number word for, because it's in speech marks. And again, I can just run it so far and check that it's producing what I want it to. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4. And then I need to do the 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato, more. So that's going to be an almost identical bit of code. And what I can do is right click and copy this, Control V, that pastes it in for I in range, and this time I'm including the 5, and I need to go up to the 7, so I need to go 1 more, which is the 8. So again, I can run it. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato, and all I need to finish my challenge, my task off, is a print. And this time I'm just going to print more. So now when I run, I should get my nursery rhyme. That's exactly what you need to produce. If you can put that into your e-portfolio and explain that, that'll be superb. So well done so far. You can write it with an if, an elif, and an else. You did this the previous week. So if it's within a range, you can print certain things, iterate. A little bit more complex, you can have a go if you want, but I don't want to overly confuse you by this. So if you find this one difficult, ignore this, but do have a go if you think you want a little challenge. If you can put that in your e-portfolio, that'd be brilliant. So this is your kind of extension task that I'd like you to have a go at if you can. You've got other extension tasks. Get the user to enter the times table they want to see. So you could have an input, multiplying it by a certain number and iterating through the answers. I'd like you to have a go at that. That's a really nice challenge, and you might be able to look at online, Google how to create an iteration with multiplication, how to write a times table in Python. That'll be interesting to see what you can do. So I iterated through here the number multiplied by 2. Now a little clue is the multiply symbol in Python is the asterisk, the star, 2, and then equals, you can have the answer. So you can work through that one, and you might be able to do it backwards, where the 2 times 2 is 4, 1 times 2 is 2, so you're going backwards, starting at 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. So think about what you've learnt before and see if you can apply that. But these are extension tasks, so only do these if you want a challenge. Do not feel you have to do these, and do not panic if you're not able to program these. It's just a little challenge to see how you get on. So we're left with 9 questions at the end. What is conditional statement? What do we use if elif and else? Or why do we use elif and else in Python? And what controls a while loop? So you can work through these 9 questions. Remember, we've got this one here. What does cast mean? We did that last week. And we've got what is iteration? We did that this week. So you should understand what is iteration. I'll repeat that. What is iteration? I'm going to repeat it again. What is iteration? So there's a little clue there. So answer your 9 questions, and then put your evidence in your e-portfolio and submit that to your teacher.